It's the radio guy, Mike Prince. Welcome to another special episode here of the Mike Prince Show here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Our daily mission is to bring you news that you can use. Of course, today would not be an exception to the rule. Our social media handles, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter are all at the Mike Prince Show. And the YouTube channel is Open Mic Broadcast Network. And without any further delay, we're going to jump right into today's episode. The UIL this week has let it be known that the games are back on for fall competition. And we all know, especially in the state of Texas, when we say IE fall competition, we're really talking about football. And we have with us today on the line an exhilarated, I guess somewhat of a relieved head football coach and athletic director of the Waller Bulldogs, Gene Johnson. How you feeling, Coach?
Well, you kind of hit it on the head, I guess, exhilarated. I think there was a little burst of energy and the blood pumped a little bit faster through the veins when we got that word.
Well, when you get the word that this has actually happened, was it a surreal moment that you say, hey, I don't believe this has actually happened? Or were you looking at the calendar to make sure this wasn't a bad April Fool's joke?
Well, I think more than anything, it was relief to know that the UIL finally came out. And certainly I understand the position that they were in. And, you know, they needed to try to get this right or as right as we can get it. And so more than anything, it was just relief that we finally had some direction. You know, when you're the rudderless ship that's just kind of floating around, bouncing around without a direction, it's difficult to plan. It's difficult to stay motivated. It's difficult to stay focused. And that's the adults. So imagine what the 16, 17-year-old kids were feeling. But I think it was a moment of relief mostly for me.
Now, with the relief that comes, you automatically get into active coaching mode, even though I know coaches are always active, but to actually have that uncertainty, at least at this moment, removed. And there's a unique approach to the 5A and 6A divisions. We'll get into that in just a moment. But what was the first thing you did once you got the news as far as your planning for this season goes?
Well, you know, I think just immediately we have to come back and look at what the district implications are in terms of when we're starting classes and when we're starting classes on school. And, you know, there's some things within the plan that the UIL laid out that accommodates for schools that are unable to bring kids to campus for practices until September 7th or September 8th, I guess, with the 7th being a holiday. And then there's an alternative plan to programs that can have their strength and conditioning. And so I guess the first thing that gets kicked in is, you know, initially you think, well, there's an 11-week schedule, so we'll take the old 11-week schedule and move it into these calendar dates. But there's some things that have to kind of be whittled through there just to make sure that the other school districts are on the same plan or format that we're on to determine whether we get the option of the 11-week season for 10 games or a 10-week season for 10 games.
Okay, so there's the first hurdle.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And with that, there became more what we call a staggering season, 5A and 6A, because I'm assuming of the locale, and these are larger metropolis, and most of these school districts that we're talking about in 5A, 6A, they've been pushed back 4 weeks after the fact. And that was part of, I'm assuming, the virus, let's say, aggressiveness in those selected areas?
You know, I think probably, and of course, I don't have privy to the discussions that went into the decision, but I would think that there are probably several factors that go into that. I think none greater than what you mentioned, that some of those metropolitan areas are harder hit and, you know, where maybe the virus has taken a little bit more of a toll. And certainly that's where some of the hospitals are, that even these rural areas, if people get sick there, they have to come to the Houston area. And so I think some of that, as you mentioned, a big portion of that probably was because of the hit that Dallas area has taken and San Antonio area has taken and Houston area has taken. And that is where the majority of your 5A, 6A high schools are. I think the other thing that I just thought, and I don't know if it was part of the decision or just a peripheral benefit, but when you think about a Class A school and a Class 2A school, I think the thing that we initially jumped to is that, athletes are going to be in a bind there to some degree. If they're trying to move from football to basketball to baseball season, and then we start delaying the starts for those. But probably even more significant than the athletes is that at a Class A, Double A, 3A school, those coaches are the same coaches, and so you start squeezing and compacting seasons down, and they cross over. I think that this model works really well for the smaller schools because a lot of those coaches, when they put those shoulder pads on the shelf and the kid goes to the second sports, coach goes with them too. So I would imagine there's several factors that played into it, but I don't think probably any greater than what you mentioned of greater, big areas, city areas is where it was most impacted.
Okay, we're speaking right now with Coach Gene Johnson, head football coach, athletic director for the Waller Bulldogs. UIL has released the Hounds to get back on the gridiron, and I know the coaching staff was excited, but I know your student athletes had to be leaping for joy, Coach.
They were really excited. Of course, we were having our morning sack session, our workout session when this news came out, and I tried to play a little joke on the kids and told them that, hey, the UIL came out and canceled the season, and Mason Stewart, as a matter of fact, he said, "No, Coach, I already saw the tweet that came out." so they may have gotten the news before I ever got the news. I think they were excited.
The world of Twitter and social media has forever changed our dynamics, Coach.
Moves fast. And it's hard for these older people like me to move as fast as what them young kids do on that social media. But hey, I try to give them a run for their money.
You're not alone, Coach. Look, my tweets are, "Hello, how you doing? Next episode." I'm not trying to keep up in the whirlwind. There's a time and season for everything, and you let the young folk carry us throughout this world of social media. Now, Coach, you're talking about moving ahead, getting done. We never really got a chance to go into detail because of the uncertainties, but realignment with the UIL right now. You got one heck of a district, Coach. I'm looking at Cleveland, College Station, Conroe Caney, Lufkin, Magnolia West, New Caney, Porter, and then, of course, Waller completes the rest of this district. What you gonna do, Coach?
We've got our work cut out for us, and so that's for certain. But some of those places, and you mentioned some of those teams that you're talking about there. Of course, New Caney has just been tearing it up the last few years, and I think New Caney and New Caney Porter end up undefeated in the last week, playing each other, usually 9-0 to see which one of their two teams is going to go 10-0. But then you think about the tradition behind the Lufkin program and just the opportunity for our kids to go to play in an East Texas environment like Lufkin, where the tradition of football is so strong there. And College Station is not that old of a program, but their tradition in a very short period of time, being a state championship team and so forth, and getting to play in those different stadiums and places where football has been so successful. Of course, Porter has got the beautiful stadium, and Cleveland is growing out there, and they're, how quickly they've moved up into the 5A ranks, and they've got a new coach that's a tremendous coach and done a great job everywhere he's been. And so, to me, you look at the opportunity of it, and it's exciting.
No doubt about it. It's going to be exciting, and let's not forget the other word, challenging. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be something that the guys are well ready for and looking forward to it. And we talk about that. You have the 4-week stagger behind the regular season for the 1 through 4A situation. How do you go about easing your guys back into the mental and the physical aspect that it takes to be ready for play?
Well, I think the first step was yesterday, right? Just to put a goal in front of a kid. And as much as we struggle as adults and needing something to focus on, we've now got something that the kids can focus on to some degree. Now, you and I understand how just around the corner this is, but for these kids, this probably seems like, gee whiz, this is 2 years away before we get to September. But there is a hard line date there that's in front of them. And so I think now we can try to focus them on, hey, we need to try to start thinking about being ready. And much of what the UIL did was essentially with the 11-week option and the 10-week option, they tried to align it to where kids were having a chance to prepare themselves physically for the taxing sport of football. You know, it's if you're not in shape and if you don't have a strong core and you haven't been working out, then you're going to be much more susceptible to injury than a kid that has been preparing and prepping and working. And so I think that the second piece of that is once we get the focus of the goal in front of us, the second piece is okay, how can we prepare our bodies to go through a season? And so we've got to start looking at all of the challenges that we have in opening school back up and when will we be on campus and in the meantime, while we're trying to do all of that, staff full of history teachers and science teachers and math teachers, we got to try to figure out how to get these kids in shape and ready for their season. So before we start throwing out routes and playing cover three, I think it's just getting those kids, getting their bodies ready for the physical challenges of a 2-hour practice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're talking right now with Coach Gene Johnson of the Waller Bulldogs. Got the news of freedom. I guess we could use that. This is what it feels like everybody's been on lockdown. But the UIL has said we're going to release the hounds. But with that same memo that was sent out, Coach, was there a potential contingency plan in the event that things change for the worse? We know this thing has been like a roller coaster, up and down, up and down. Is there still a possibility of moving fall sports to the spring? I know there was a discussion prior to the decision being made, and with the dynamics that you spoke of for the smaller districts, would there be a contingency plan for 5A and 6A only if that were the case?
It would be unfair for me to speak on that. I just don't know. Again, those behind closed door meetings, some of that stuff may be on the table, but just not openly discussed out here in public for us to see. But I do know that the UI has expressed a strong commitment to getting the fall seasons running and in place. And so I think it's obviously, it goes unspoken. We've all learned to live kind of day to day in this scenario, and we know that the dynamics could change and throw up some hurdles. I did talk to a coach that they're talking about maybe some ways to build in open dates throughout their district play so that if things pop up, they can maybe shut things down for a week or two and then come back at it. So I think people are going to be ready to try to make adjustments, and I think the commitment is to try to make this thing pull it off this fall.
Okay, and with that verdict is what I'm going to use the terminology of 4A down, playing early. How does that impact your upcoming schedule? Will you have to try to replace a game or two, or it really doesn't impact you as much?
Well, we're trying to figure that out. As long as Brian is uh, going through summer camps and so forth, and they've got their kids doing some sort of summer strength and conditioning program beginning on August 24th. It's my understanding that we'll be able to play that game as scheduled on what would be the first week of the 11-week schedule, which would be or excuse me, not August, but would be September the 24th. Um, Aldine is our second opponent, and kind of regardless of what goes on, whether they bring kids in early or not, they would be eligible to play us that week. But I think first we have to kind of work backwards from the back of the schedule to the front and see where we are from a district standpoint. If our district chooses to spread it out and only play district games over those 11 weeks, then that would impact our opponent. So I think the first step is figuring out what that schedule is going to look like for us in terms of a district schedule. But I think we very much have the potential or likelihood of being able to play our full schedule intact as it was originally scheduled.
Well, either way, I'm pretty sure that Bulldog Nation is going to be fired up and ready to go. Coach, I got to admit, you sound a lot more up tempo this time around than the last time we got together, sir.
I feel it. I feel a little more up tempo, and as a coach, I enjoy my job, and I enjoy doing what I do and coaching, and I really believe that I can say with honest sincerity is I'm probably more than anything, I'm happy for the kids. I believe our kids need this, and I think they need the socialization and the the camaraderie and the things that go with it. So I think I'm upbeat, if no other reason, just for those kids to get an opportunity to play.
Well, the opportunity will present itself September 24th. And of course, we're going to be with you every step of the way, Coach. I do really and truly appreciate you making yourself available and to help spread the good news, bring some insight on things as they have a tendency to try to get as close to normal as we once upon a time remembered it. We'll give you some closing thoughts and comments right now, Coach.
Just glad to be back at it. I hope hope and pray our schools can open safely, and that we go through this transition. I hope that we do the right things to stay safe. Because if things go well in the school building and things go well in that athletic building, we can kind of be the kickstart to the school year. I've always thought that football is first sport up, and if you get kids excited about coming back to school and playing football, and it bleeds over into them doing good in the classroom, hopefully this will be kind of a catalyst for us to get back to doing what we do after sitting at home for March, April, and May, and get these kids back to some normalcy. So I guess the only closing thought I have is go Dogs, Mr. Prince. You know how I am about that.
Yes, sir. Go Dogs indeed. It is football season yet again. Are you ready for some football? We want to thank Coach Gene Johnson for joining in with us here on the Mike Prince Show and the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Don't forget, you can always keep up with what's going on in Bulldog Nation and abroad by following us on our social media handles, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Of course, the YouTube channel is the Open Mic Broadcast Network. I must exit stage left for right now. My time is expired. But as always, we appreciate you guys for joining in with us. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. And until the next time, you guys be blessed. We'll see you on the other side.